there. Welcome to That Mom Show. Today we're talking with Frayne. Did I say that right?
You did.
Yay. I'm terrible at introduction. Trying to get better. Dee, gosh, you've been through a lot in life. You're a life coach, business coach. You're helping people make money in their business. Are you doing like one-to-one coachings?
Yeah, one-to-one coaching. It's really interesting. I help people basically get better results in their life, in their business. We're talking about mental strength, mental fortitude, emotional wellness, emotional intelligence, so that you do the things that you know you should be doing to get the results that you want to create in your life or your business.
And that is why I have you on the show, because I think that moms, we all run our own little business at home.
Yes.
And especially like for the moms who are running a business and their family, like it's a lot of emotional power.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell me, I want to dip into anxiety a little bit, I guess is where we'll start.
Okay.
Because you were the first person that taught me that talking to myself will calm down my thoughts.
Yeah, I know, right? It's so funny. People are like, I want you to be less crazy. You're telling me to talk to myself. But I really like anxiety is just the fear of feeling emotions. And it's a cover emotion. And it's a nervous system response. So there is something that has caused your nervous system to perceive threats, and it has you spinning in that anxious thought loop. And basically the survival part of your brain is feeling your emotions as a threat. And so really talking to yourself, even like putting your hand on your chest to kind of ground yourself into your body outside of that like spinning anxiety loop in your brain, and intentional breathing will help to calm that nervous system response. So then you can quiet your mind a little bit.
And the intentional breathing, we're talking about the like, breathe it in, hold it, breathe it out.
Yes, like deep belly breathing. We are a nation of shallow breathers. And when you're in a nervous system response, a stress response, your tendency, you will always start to breathe even shallower. And that will also physically fuel that anxious reaction, right? Because when you're not breathing as deeply, your heart rate increases. Your body will also do a lot of hormonal things that happen as well. But that deep belly breathing, if you do that intentionally for like a minute, you will reset your nervous system. And like people are always like, Dee, it's not that easy. And they don't want it to be that easy, but I promise you there's a lot of physiologically things that are happening when you breathe deeply, that will just reset that. And so, in for 5, hold for 3, out for 4, even just counting to yourself, close your eyes even. That in it of itself can ground you faster than anything else. But even like if you hold your chest while you're breathing, or even hand on over your heart and hand on your belly, because again, that anxiety, like it's almost like you're in this cerebral reactive space and not in your body. And so that will help also ground you and calm that response.
Yeah. So for someone who's like the master of anxiety, do you get in, because I get it random. I feel like if I'm just driving, I don't even really have a reason. Sometimes I'll feel it in my chest and I'm like, okay, this is a little bit more mild, opposed to when I'm about to do a presentation or something. I know exactly why it's happening.
Yeah.
And I can kind of talk myself through it. I hate when I don't know why.
Yeah. I struggle with anxiety pretty much all of my life. I mean, and I've always been also a very like cerebral, monkey mind type of person where like my mind just doesn't shut off. Actually, my husband and I were joking earlier today. He walked in the room and I was just like zoning out, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm thinking." And he's like, "Oh, you're not just zoning out?" I'm like, what? Like, I can't turn off my brain. Right? It's always kind of going, but like now it used to be where it just fueled the negative, self-critical, the panic. Now when I don't turn it off, it's because I'm like thinking of ideas and geeking out. But yeah, I think that, sometimes it's very obvious. We can know what the trigger is that's causing us to feel that anxiety, like a stressful experience, doing something like speaking in public. But other times, yeah, like we don't always know, like just know that your nervous system has, for whatever reason, perceived a threat. If
Yeah.
that anxiety bubbles up. So like it's, sometimes subconscious. Um, and I think that like even just telling yourself, okay, it's like, okay, oh, I'm having an anxious experience right now. I am experiencing some anxiety. Instead of saying I have anxiety, which is like very like I own this, I'm holding on to it, it's mine, it's not going anywhere, rather than like I'm having the experience of anxiety. That already makes it more transitional,
Yeah.
right? It's something like it comes and it goes. And I
Yeah.
think sometimes with the way people really identify as having anxiety, keeps them inside that reaction, right? And so a lot of times, like the original thing that causes the anxiety has already gone, but we're having anxiety on top of anxiety on top. It's just like it loops, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like the initial trigger, the initial experience has gone, but we're just creating that increasing loop of anxiety.
Yeah. And just, I mean, we're so smart. Our brains are so crazy. I mean, and not just the brains, like our kidneys, our other organs,
Yeah.
they take care of themselves and they do a lot of smart things. Um, so I think it's important for anybody listening. You are not your thoughts. You said something, I went to a workshop of yours and you said something, let your thoughts come and let them go. Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, so it's really interesting because we really over identify with our thoughts and think that our thoughts are us, and that just because it's rattling around in that big beautiful brain of yours that it's true. And it's not. Like you said, our bodies are infinitely wise and every organ has a job. We don't over identify with our breath, but I mean, like breath is actually probably something more like true to life than our thoughts,
yeah,
right? So our lungs cause us to breathe without permission. Our kidneys filter our blood without permission. They just do that, right? It's like your brain. Your brain thinks thoughts. That's part of its job. It runs your nervous system. And so you are not your thoughts. Like all of that soup that's going on in there, those are just sentences. And some of them they're conditioned by society, by authority, by the rules of law, by religion, by our parents and other well-meaning adults. There's thoughts that are in there that are just habits of thinking. These are our beliefs, our belief system. We think that it's true. Like beliefs are just thoughts that we've repeated until we stop questioning them. So that they can be changed, right? So that you have habits of thinking. So conditioned mind, your habitual mind, and then there's also just like the survival part of your brain. That's like the oldest part of our operating system that causes us to do things that feel good and avoid things that feel bad, and to be as efficient as possible. Like that's why our brain like creates habits, so that it can use more awareness to scan for threats, like the saber-toothed tiger that's not gonna jump out and eat us anymore.
yeah, yeah, because that's what we were built for and
Yeah.
I mean, still operating on. So it's like, how do we evolve that thinking to match how we've evolved as humans?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard, right? Because now we have like this newer part of our brain, which is, our human brain. It's the part of our brain that allows us to think about our thoughts, to even know that we have thoughts, to plan, to strategize, to make goals, to envision a better and a different future, right? That's the part of our brain that's like, oh, this isn't working. Let's go over there. But then you have the other parts of your brain that can be conditioned part of your brain, the survival part of your brain, and the habitual part of your brain that's like, no, we're not going to change.
Yeah.
right? Like all of that is, and it's all running behind the scenes, right? We have like 60,000 thoughts per day, and 93% of them are subconscious, which is great because if you heard all of them, you'd probably be in a loony bin.
Yeah. Yeah, completely.
But yeah, but then that, I think it really is interesting. Like so many people struggle with mental health stuff, but they're not in a point where like they need to be hospitalized. It's not necessarily interfering with daily life, like, or impeding it, which is a more clinical definition of that. But but then it becomes that like self-doubt, that confusion. Why can't I get out of my own way? Why do I keep sabotaging myself? And then your brain offers up, well, there's something wrong with you. And also, all of society is like, hey, buy this thing because there's something wrong with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's why so many people are having this like low grade anxiety, low grade depression. It's not clinical. It really doesn't need medicine. It's just you need to learn how to use your brain, like, because this higher consciousness, this aware part of your brain is new. It doesn't know how to quite override the other 75% of your brain that's like, we ain't doing anything different.
Yeah. Well, and humans love routine. So if you're comfortable and to kind of touch base on somebody that's possibly in a situation that they shouldn't still be in, um, if we feel kind of safe or we feel kind of okay, we're gonna stay in that routine, even if it is abusive. We tell
Mhm.
ourselves it's kind of okay, or it's more
Yeah.
comforting to stay here than to change what we're doing.
Yeah, and there's actually a really great explanation for why that happens, even because our human brain, the rational, logical part of our brain's like, this person is abusive. I should leave, right? Like we know, like that this is not safe. This isn't good. I should go. But the survival part of your brain doesn't want to change because it wants to minimize uncertainty. So even though rationally, logically, with our human brain, we're like, it will definitely be better over there. It will be better if I leave. The survival part of your brain's like, but there might be a tiger over there.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what to expect here.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's not good, but it's not a tiger.
Mm-hmm.
And so that part of your brain is like, and because the survival part of our brain that has been running the show for thousands of years, unless you know how to override it, unless you have that, like the skills to lead your brain that survive out of that survival reaction, you're going to choose to say,
Mm-hmm.
there's
Oh,
nothing wrong with you. Like
yeah,
there's not, like if you take nothing else from this conversation, you're not broken.
I love that. And people, I think that it's so important that we actually study what is going on in the brain, because that's not something we learn in school. We learn the fundamentals of like what school is, what you're not supposed to do to like other people, maybe stay in line. Um, but they don't teach you that you have anxiety. They don't teach you that you can get ganged up on by other kids. And a lot of the stories sounds really dark. So my viewers aren't not used to it. So there's a gorilla that was in an enclosure, and his owner basically couldn't keep him. I don't know the logistics of it, but gave him to like some zoo or some other place that had more gorillas. But the owner was still allowed to come and see his monkey. And so he would come and bring his monkey a birthday cake on his birthday every year. And come and see him. And gorillas, they're smart. They remember you. Like they know. So the other gorillas, though, got really mad that this gorilla was getting a birthday cake. And the other gorillas aren't evolved enough to realize that it's their brain, that it's their thought and their entitlement to that birthday cake that hurt their feelings. So, what happened is they busted out of their cages and they went after the guy that gave the gorilla the birthday cake. And gorillas are and it's sad because like I feel like this is the animal that we're the most relatable to,
Yeah.
um But the monkey went after his fingers, his feet, went after his face. They went after things that they know that he needed to hurt him because he had hurt him. And I've actually seen this in people, especially like in an abuse cycle, where sometimes their biggest anxiety is that that person is going to say some bad things about you, or they're going to try to do something this way. And I would really love somebody, if you're listening to this and you're in that scenario trying to leave, they might be that gorilla. You're absolutely right. They may not be evolved enough to know that they're not supposed to do something to hurt somebody, but you are. And that's probably where you need to stay, in my opinion, and keep evolving and realize that people are just kind of on their learning curves as they hurt people. And you know, I guess get away from that as much as you can.
Yeah, and just know that like you deserve better. Like if you have a vision of how things could be better and be different, and you have that desire and that want in your heart, it's there for a reason.
Yeah.
And you deserve to go after that, whatever it is, whether it's escaping trauma, escaping abuse, or even like you're a mom and you're taking care of the family and the kids and everybody else first, and not like birthing this like desire that you have in your own heart to like go back to school or to go work or to build a business or whatever it is, right? Like you have that desire, you have that inkling, that vision for a reason. Like one of my coach friends said, like you already got the part, like now you're just learning the lines, right? Like because she's a very theater person. Like if you have that desire, you have that vision for a reason, and there's no reason why you can't create that.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to be willing to push through the discomfort of leaving, of growing, right? Like we think that like we're just going to wait until it doesn't hurt or till it's not hard, and the reality is all growth is painful.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like you choose your pain. Do you want the discomfort of stagnation? Do you want the discomfort of staying where you're at? Or do you want to be uncomfortable in the service of growth, in the service of that vision, in the service of bringing that desire to life?
Yeah. I love that. And I love, so yeah, I get, it comes down to talking to yourself nicely. And I love that your friend mixes in like the theater and stuff, because I feel when someone said this to me, I was almost mad when I like realized how true it was, but that life is like a movie. It's like, what's the hero of your movie gonna do today? And I thought about it. It's like everybody, you know, we determine, are we a doctor? Are we, I mean, okay. You can't just walk into a hospital and be like, I'm a doctor now. Like, this is how it works. But I mean, you have decided, are you going to be this? Are you going to be that? Like, what are you today? And we actually made this quote from another talk show that I was watching, but he mentioned, if you run once, you've ran. If you run for 30 days, you're a runner. So I think consistently talking to
You can
yourself.
even call yourself a runner if you've ran once. I mean, like you can decide.
Yeah.
Like you are the author of your own story. You can reinvent yourself as many times as you want.
Yeah.
We often think that like, I think a big thing that stops people is like what other people will think of us and what they will say. And, you know, they're not the ones living your life.
Right.
And most people are so like self-involved, they're not going to notice that you've changed directions or that you've tried something different. And or they might even be thinking, wow, I wish I could try so many things like that person does.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes what someone else thinks about you, it's not always your business. So even if they do think, wow,
Never.
she's changed this so many times, like, what do you care? Like, you're
Yeah,
going to bed with yourself. Like, do you really care that Susan thinks that you've changed your life like majorly the last?
too many times.
Yeah. Like,
Okay, Susan. Cool.
How many times do we change a recipe until it's like perfected and then it's in a restaurant, or change a prototype of something until it's like better and now we can officially sell it because it's the best model of what it's supposed to be? Like, I feel like
Yeah.
that kind of is in life, you know? It doesn't always go out the way it's supposed to be, but you can fix it, make a better model.
There's so many people, so many structures, so many isms, all of these things that want to prescribe for us how we should live and how we should act and how we should show up. And honestly, like some of it works and some of it doesn't. And you get to decide, like, you should probably follow the laws and not go kill people, right? Like, we agree that there's some sense in some of these things, but like, whether or not Susan thinks that like you're a flake because you tried this one thing and then tried another thing and then tried another thing, who cares? Susan's not living your life. Like, the purpose of life is to be fulfilled and to enjoy yourself, to have joy and to have love.
Yes.
Does what you're going to do you think it's going to bring you closer to that? Yes or no? Is it going to harm people? Then don't do it. But if it's just going to have them have thoughts about you, I think you can survive that. You've probably experienced harder things than other people having thoughts about you. Again, your survival brain is going to be like, oh my God, don't do it, right? Because there's a real survival thing happening there. Like, we were not the fastest or the strongest animals in the animal kingdom, but we tried together, and that's how we were able to survive and climb up the ladder, right? So rejection back then, when there were like lions and tigers and bears, oh my, like, you didn't want to be rejected from the herd, you would probably die. But now, like, I don't know if you've gone outside lately, unless like a zoo is having a problem, there's no lions and tigers and bears running around. So like, rejection like triggers like the deepest fear in us, because your brain's like, we're going to get eaten by an animal. So again, talk to yourself. It's okay if Susan doesn't like the fact that I'm doing something different with my life. It's okay that Susan has thoughts about me. This is going to lead me, I think, to more love, to more joy, to more enjoyment, to more fulfillment. I'm gonna go over there, and it's okay. She can think whatever she wants to think about me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the other side too is like, have you ever had that person in your life where like you did what they thought that, you did what they thought that you should be doing, and then they still weren't happy with you?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, their thoughts about you actually have nothing to do with you or your behavior or your choices. They're going to think whatever they want to think about you. So you may as well like do what makes you happy.
I love that. You guys write that on your fridge. Write that on your forehead.
I mean, don't be a dick, right? Don't hurt other people.
Yeah. If it makes you happy to hurt other people, I suggest you get back in therapy. Like, I like try some jujitsu. I don't know. Like,
Yeah, but I mean, most of the things that we really want, that we desire, that like call, that vision that we have, isn't about hurting other people. It's about expanding and growing into like a bigger, more capable, more happy version of ourselves.
yeah.
And you know what the world needs? A lot more people who are happy and fulfilled and enjoying their life.
Yes. Preach deep.
Like, some of the best things that we can do for other people is to be an example of what's possible.
Yeah.
And to show like those miserable people in your life that happiness is available to them too. Like, I'm going to go be happy. I'm going to do what lights my soul on fire. And you can join me if you want, because there's enough of this fire for everybody.
And now we're to a point where we are so overpopulated where you can find those people easier. You can find people that have that same sort of fire as you do when you need that hype up, you know?
Thank God for the internet, right? Like, sure, there's a lot of caves and trolls and ugly places on the internet, but there's also like what you're doing here, bringing like people together with That Mom Show, and like having this community. Like, there are other like-minded people just like you who want more, who you want to rise above, who want to push themselves towards growth and healing and setting their soul on fire, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can find them if they're not directly around you. in your physical space, find them online. Be like 2% more daring and find them in person. Like go to, like, I know like the world's a little weird with COVID right now, but like, you know, be willing to be scared and go to that networking thing. Be willing to be rejected and say hi to that other mom at the park, right? Like if you want more friends, if you want more like-minded people, if you're not surrounded by them, just be willing to like feel that awkwardness and make new friends.
Put
They're
yourself
out there.
Yeah. Put yourself in front of them. I gave
Yeah.
somebody some dating advice and asked him, what kind of girl he wanted. And he described someone kind of outdoorsy and whatnot. And I was like, okay, well, I don't think just going on the trails is gonna get you this. Maybe you like make it a little smaller. Maybe she's in like a hiking class. Maybe she's in like some sort of class. Like find her there. I don't know. Because hitting on girls at the trail wasn't working for him, apparently.
Yeah, but put yourself in the way of people. If you want more connection, like sitting on your couch hiding, like it's not going to bring it. Like so many people have been like, I see it all over the place. People are like, I want adults who want women who want friends, but are so scared to like find them. And it's like filter through people. Like adult friendships are a little bit different, right? But like don't expect like that you're going to have one person who does all the things with you. As adults, like we kind of actually tend to have friends that are like um interest based or activity based or stage of life based, right? Like if the kids are similar age, that makes it a lot easier, right? Than if you've got teenagers and babies, like, well, maybe that's an easy combo, but whatever, like just go out there. And so being a military spouse and like moving all the time, like every couple of years I have to make new friends, and like in the beginning it was so hard and I was so lonely, and then finally I'm like, I don't want to be lonely anymore. I don't want to not have friends. I don't want to only have friends that are like in a different time zone that I have to call on the phone, because even back then, because I'm so old, there wasn't all this video stuff. Like I decided that I wanted connection and I was going to make it happen. And so, the cool thing is with social media, like you can find Facebook groups of people in the same location as you, same interests, and just say, I want to make a new friend. And like be willing to like, it's kind of like dress shopping. You rarely pick up the right one first time off the rack, right? Like sometimes you're like, this one's a little too short. This color doesn't look good on me, right? It's the same with like making new friends. Like be willing to like have a bunch of coffee dates
I love that.
until you find the person who's like, yes, you're my type of
You're my
person.
person.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, see, that's ladies, don't forget this. This is why I love, first of all, my favorite is to interview coaches, because I feel like coaches had to go through their own blossoming to get to where they were, to even be able to coach someone else. Like that is a heavy, when I hear people saying that they want to do therapy or they want to be a counselor, I really kind of worry in a sense that they haven't thought about all the heaviness that comes from having conversations with people, because sometimes it's a lot to bear yourself. But when you're willing to put yourself out there as a coach like you have, I feel like you've just already kind of blossomed from some stuff
Yeah.
over here, and I just love your mindset. And I mean, I know you're not a mom.
Nope. Well, I got a dog, Mom. That's
You're a
Moose
dog mom.
Nugget right there. He's cuddling over my shoulder. The
Well,
other
and
one's
to kind of shout out to, I mean, I hate saying something that I know like somebody could possibly take. I mean, anybody could take offense
you're
to
not.
something, but I mean, there are those scenarios where you tell a woman and she's like, "Oh, I've had this many miscarriages," so it's
Oh,
like,
yeah, you're not gonna bother me.
okay, well, it happened, and like, and I want women to know, like, even if you don't have children and you've been trying, and this is like a tough sore spot for you, we're always kind of coming back to ourselves. Like our kids will grow up and leave. Um, it's very real for empty nesters to get dogs because they need something to take care of.
Mhm.
So I think it's important that anybody who might be listening to this and thinking that, oh, well, Dee's not this or that, like a lot of the advice that I take from people again is because they've been through this and then they've still come out and they're like, I'm still this person. I just have like three more of me now. And this is crazy. So I think that well, okay, now I'm off on a little bit of a tangent, but acknowledging that you are a mom in your own sense. And two, I really want women to kind of see themselves as just them. Like it's the whole point of my show because a lot of women see themselves as them and mom. Or when
Yeah.
they tell you
Or
ask
even mom first. I think that that's like so many women get lost in the role. They lose themselves inside of I'm a mom, and they put that ahead of everything else. And like you're you first.
yeah, like
And it's
you're a good person.
okay to take care of, nourish yourself first.
Yeah.
Always, right? Your most important relationship is the relationship that you have with yourself
Mhm.
before anyone else, before your partner, before your children. Like, if you have a grounded relationship with yourself, if you know how to love yourself, if you know how to care for yourself, you're going to show up to every other relationship as the best version of yourself and not a depleted version of yourself.
Yes.
And
See,
like, dude, the way you care for yourself, your self care, think about how your mom practiced self care.
mhm.
I'm guessing, unless you've done some intentional work, like if it's really good, awesome, go mom. But like if you have a problematic relationship with self care and putting yourself first and having a good relationship with yourself, see if that mimics what you learned in your own house. And just know your children are watching you too. And is that the legacy that you want them to live?
Yes.
Right? Would you want your son or daughter to treat themselves the way that you treat yourself? And so, like, sometimes women have a hard time putting themselves first, and they feel that guilt. But this actually, you caring for yourself first and making your relationship with yourself number one is the most giving thing that you can do for your children.
Absolutely. They talk about putting your mask on the flight before your children's mask because you can't help your children if you're passed out and you didn't put on your mask.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's like the perfect metaphor for it. But like, truly, like, it's selfless to care for yourself. We're taught that, like, as when there's so many gnarly messages that we're given as women about how we're supposed to show up and how we're supposed to be selfless and take care of everybody else first. And it's just garbage. That's some of that conditioned mind stuff. That's those things that we have been taught over and over and over again from well-meaning people, from television shows, from everything, right? Like in culture, that like to be a good mom, to be a good woman, we eat last. We take
You
care of
laugh.
ourselves.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, like all of it. And I just want you to know that it's okay to call BS on that. And it's actually the worst way to show up. Because then, like you were saying, like once the kids go off, like I've coached a lot of women who like have only defined themselves as mom and not care, like done anything to really nurture themselves. It was all about the children. Then when the children grow up and they go, they like they don't even know how to function in the world.
Mhm.
They don't even know what they like anymore. They don't have any hobbies. They don't really have any kids, well, or friends. I mean, like they were kind of friends, but they were basically like moms of their friends, their kids' friends, like, right? And they're like, there's no identity outside of mom. And I'm
And the
not saying that,
kids
like
fight with the
that,
kid and the moms are upset with each other.
yeah. And then look, there's nothing wrong with like taking your job as mom as like super important priority number one. Like, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that, but like, have a relationship with yourself. Make sure that you're nourishing your mind, body, and spirit because you will be a better mom. You will be able to show up and care for them better.
Yeah. If you're sitting there and you can't remember the last thing you did something for yourself, you're probably in this toxic cycle of just giving yourself. And that's not having a relationship with yourself. And in my opinion.
Yeah. And it's okay. Like, don't beat yourself up, right? Like if you're noticing, and that's me, like don't heap self-judgment and criticism on top of it, right? It's just all about noticing, oh, I've gotten out of a relationship with myself. What can I do to rekindle that?
I love that.
Yeah.
So how do we raise more people to be like Dee? Because I mean, to kind of pick at you for a minute, you've been married for a while.
Yeah. 16 years.
16 years. Wow.
Yeah. I know.
So do you guys have a bunch of like super gender roly life, or is it pretty equal?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, it's so funny. Like, I think that there are things that we do that kind of go down the traditional gender roles, but he's also upstairs cooking me dinner because, that's awesome. Um, and it's really interesting too because he's in the military and sometimes he's gone for long periods of time. So I have to do it all, or like, so I don't know. I think that like it's not an easy answer. I mean, like, I don't think that like we're like, oh, that's the boy's job, that's the girl's job.
Right.
There, I mean, there's some things that like we do that ascribe to that, but I don't know.
But he wasn't, I mean, 16 years later, we weren't like, oh, we have to do things this way. You have to, because I remember when you told me that, you made the flip for yourself in your career and everything. So I guess I'm just trying to pick, do you have that same sort of support from your husband all the time and like no matter what you
Yes. I
do?
mean, look, like every relationship takes work. Have there been times where there's been more pull and put than push? Absolutely. Have there been times where maybe one of us has carried a heavier load than the other? Yes.
That happens.
You know what I mean? Like,
Teamwork.
but it's all about communication. And like I'm guessing, maybe I'm figuring out where you're going with this, is that like don't just assume like this is my job, this is his job. And like if you're drowning, if you feel like there's inequity in your relationship, that like you as mom, as caregiver, and then all of the other things that we normally heap onto women are, you're not being supported, speak up. Like I don't think this, in so many relationships I've seen this where like women feel like they have to carry it all and do it all and their husbands don't help, only because they've never had the conversation.
Mm.
Like
Mhm.
men and women we're socialized different, right? So women are trained to look and see all of the things that we see where men are not. And they don't even realize that that's something that needs to be done. They're not being a jerk for not doing it. They just don't even like, it's not on their radar that like, oh, maybe like we should pick up all the socks off the floor. I don't know, whatever it is, the thing that like you get annoyed that he's not doing or helping you with, or seeing that you're like busting your hump over.
Mhm.
Don't assume that he's just being a jerk first. That's not going to help.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and sometimes people have different love languages. Maybe like some people, their love language is providing and giving gifts. And then there's other people that are like, you show up here with a gift, I will be mad.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think it's important to know those in your relationship with or without kids, because and kind of with your friendships too. If your friendships really, I have some friends that need to go out and need to see me here and there to feel connected, or at least a phone call. And then I have other friends that I can go like 4 months without talking and they know I totally love them and everything's perfectly fine. So
Yeah. It's just be willing to be vulnerable in the relationships that mean the most to you, to tell them what you want and what you need. I
yeah.
think so many times we just expect that people know and that it's obvious, and that causes us a lot of pain and suffering. Trust me, I did that in the beginning of my marriage. Like, why does he not know? Right. And
Done that.
it's just like, if this is your person, if this is the person that you've decided to spend the rest of your life with or raise children with, like, do you think that like it might be worth it to be like uncomfortable to say, hey, I need this from you?
Mhm. Yeah, completely. And I mean, I'm like thinking of all my failed relationships and where it could have been better, but the ones that succeeded were the long because we worked on it or went to counseling. And now I'm in the healthiest, longest relationship I've been in. And it's because we've gone to counseling and we've communicated and we've worked past that uncomfortable and discovered
Yeah.
those things within each other.
Yeah. And just know that like every relationship is like also like almost like a growing organism of its own, right? Like it's going to evolve and change over time. And so like what you needed at year 5 is probably going to be different at year 10, and like and it's going to keep changing, and being willing to flex and grow and evolve with that person as you both grow and evolve and change as individuals, right? There's been like so many moments in our life, in our marriage, where like one of us has been struggling with something either in our career or in our other extended family life or whatever, and it's just like that give and take, and like being willing to like reassess and come to like a new norm based on the season of life, and not like make it mean that like the person doesn't love you or care about you or notice you. Just like notice that like, hey, they're going through something right now.
Yeah, they're human.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have their own stuff. I seen a quote once that I really liked. It was like, life is its whole own battleground and we come home. We don't want that to be the hardest place with somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, and
So
it doesn't have to be, but like it's almost like sometimes we have to be the one, like even though we think that they're the one that needs to change or do things differently, we have to be the one to like be uncomfortable first, or to change a little bit on ourselves, right? Like to get the outcome that we want.
yeah.
Like uh, one thing that I heard that has stuck with me is like, do you want to be angry or do you want to be in love? Do you want to be right or do you want to be in love? So
Mm,
whatever it is that you're feeling, do you want to be that or do you want to be in love? Right? Like so many times we like get stuck on fixated on being like the right one in the relationship at the expense of love. What we really truly want is love. We're just stuck on being right.
yeah. Well, and it would be really beneficial for people to come back and see what their own intention is for starting a fight or to like what is your intention to bring this up? Is this so you can remind him what he said 2 months ago and it still hurt your feelings? Because maybe there's a softer way to just say, hey, I don't trust you. And
Yeah. Or,
that's
hey, when you did that thing, it hurt my feelings.
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe just lead with the truth.
Yeah.
Right? That feels more vulnerable though, right? Like, oh, when you said this, it really hurt.
Yeah.
So instead, sometimes people will pick a fight over something else because they're hurting inside.
Yeah.
Right.
And
But it's, yeah. And just be like, be aware of your expectations too, right? Like so many times, like the reason why we have fights and have issues is because we have expectations for the other person that we have not communicated to them.
and that's not you get ooh stress on this enough, like that's not healthy in any relationship at all, like
Yeah.
you
I
can't.
mean, look, people are always going to do what they're going to do, right? Like, think about when someone tells you what to do. You probably push back, get a little pissy, like, don't want to do it, right? That's natural human response to being told what to do. So, is it weird that your spouse is like having the same reaction? No, we can make requests of other people, but doesn't mean that they have to do that. And what's even worse is like the requests that we have in our own mind that we haven't even told them about. Like, I expect to get flowers for every occasion, but I've never told him that I want flowers. And then I'm angry at him because he didn't bring me flowers on my birthday. That's not me. I don't always want flowers, but like, right. But like, there's things that like for hit, like, what are your rules for how this person shows you love or respect or whatever it is that you feel that you're not getting? Ask yourself, what are the rules that I have for that?
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, have I told that person that I expected? Like to us, it's obvious, right? Especially like when you're putting it through the framework of like love languages. our love language is what's obvious. So if we like gifts, like it's obvious, like to love me, you should be giving me gifts. But what if there's is physical touch? And
Yeah.
so they think they're showing you love every time they hug you, right? Like that's obvious to them. Why don't you feel loved? I'm touching you all the time.
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, humans. This is great. Thank you so much for yeah,
Yeah, of course.
doing this. There's I guess one last thing. I've actually taken up a lot more of your time than I thought.
No problem.
um, so I'll just ask you, what advice would you give another human that wanted to work in the same field as you?
Oh, whew. As a life coach,
The life coach.
well, like you said, like earlier, that be willing to work on your own shit first.
Mhm.
Right? It's easy for me to help others because I have healed a lot of the stuff that happened in my life.
Nice.
So I think that first of all is like, um, know that it's work on yourself first and then holding that space for other people. Um, and then it's a couple different skill sets that you need, right? I think this is true for any business owner, that you need the skill set of the work that you do. So for me, like coaching skill, but also the business skill. Like you need to know how to market and to sell and to be an entrepreneur. So it's the two skill sets that you need.
Mhm. I love that you said that. I'm just a little bit. We had an interview with Leah Bliss. Great interview if you guys want to check that out too. But she also mentioned um, it's it's consistent hard work, and we got into a little bit. There's a lot. I feel like sometimes there's the 9 to 5ers. There's like the people that like having someone tell you what to do and tell you meet these goals.
Mhm.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Some of us need that because
Yeah.
there's so much else going on in our lives. And then I feel like there's the entrepreneur or the freelance entrepreneurs that like want to manage their own stuff and they don't realize like how lonely or how constructive and organized like that whole like that is a whole different process than the 9 to 5. And then you've got the CEO that wants 5 people in these departments with like 10 people under them. Like they like the stress of managing people and
Yeah.
they like a 50-person team. But maybe that like being a boss to somebody isn't exactly like what the entrepreneur person is. And it actually speaks to, I think, people who kind of do, hang on, I'm like stopping my brain. I'm going to say real estate, but I feel like they do have a little bit more of a community in that. So
Yeah.
your job specifically, you are the tough leader that's strong for everybody else and managing your own stuff. So that's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that like you you touched on something super important, is that like if you've always been an employee, like there is a big mindset shift that happens to become your own boss, um to be an entrepreneur, to whatever type of business you want. Like it's a whole different worldview. Like and that is probably one of the most important things that you can work on first,
Yeah.
besides like just the nuts and bolts, but like really like changing how you think about yourself and your skills and how you show up in the world to help other people with whatever you choose to do in business.
Yeah, for freelancers, you guys, you were literally the leader of that little niche or industry that you're doing for sure. It's not easy to manage yourself, especially on days that you're not feeling um, super motivated because we're human. We're not always
Yeah.
motivated. Sometimes we're like,
Yeah. When you're the only person in your business and you can't get out of your own way, that's a problem.
yeah. But I think a lot of people just see, oh, Dee, like look how adorable you look. Look at all the clients you got. Look at your colors. Like it's just like you look like you have like the picture perfect Instagram life
Oh,
sense, and you're self-employed and you get to move and take your job with you, like those, that comes at a price, and the price is I don't get nice coworkers to say good morning, and I don't have just a to-do list to go and then tell somebody that I did a good job.
or paid time off or health benefits. Like there's, well, I could buy them for myself, but
Right.
right. Like there's so
But no
many
one's
things.
just giving them to you because you did a
No,
to-do list. Yeah.
no. Every once in a while, my boss will give me the day off. Like she gave me Thanksgiving off, but
You. It's like when you point this way, it kind of looks like you're pointing at your dog. I'm like, huh.
well, yeah, he thinks he's the boss.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Oh,
like
he is.
wrong.
Yeah, that's hard, and it is hard to find that balance so you don't get burnt out. I feel like some people just plunge into it, and then
Yeah.
they're gonna burn out if they don't do it right, or just, and that's okay. This is kind of what we talked about, like evolutionizing your life. If you're trying this out, it doesn't completely work out the way you were supposed to. Maybe you weren't supposed to be a speaker, freelancer, but maybe you are supposed to be in social work, and you're supposed to. I can't talk. Supposed to be a counselor.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, and like, don't think that you have to figure it out all on your own, right? Like, if you, again, if you have that desire, if you have that goal, if you have that vision, there are people who know how to help you, whether it's hiring a business coach, hiring a life coach, hiring a therapist, hiring a marketing person, a social media manager, even going to the Small Business Administration. They have SCORE and the SBDC, which offer free business advice, free business mentoring, free business classes, right? Like there's a wealth of information and knowledge and helpers and people that are for free or that you can hire to help you be successful, right? If like you want it, like fight for it. Like it's going to be work. I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to go be a coach and it's going to be so easy and I'm going to get rich quick, right? Like all these coaches that are making so much money, and it's like, it's, yes, it's possible to make good money as a coach, but it's not, it takes work and it takes effort. You have to build the two skill sets. You have to build your mind. You have to build an audience, right? Like it's not just a, oh, I did 3 posts and no one hired me and I guess I'm a failure.
No one
Right?
wants
Like,
to listen to me. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and you had, if I remember correctly, you had a different job when you started your coaching. And then you made the flip. You didn't just plunge into it and you're like, oh, now I depend on your money. Like you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, I worked as a professional coach for an organization. So I was already coaching people, but I started my practice, my personal practice on the side. And I built that until it was right financially for me to go all in on my business. And my husband and I made a lot of decisions to support that, right? That change in income in the beginning. And I really decided to go all in on my business once, like energetically, like I just didn't have capacity to do more. Like I had the number like 14 clients or something like that on my, like in my practice. I had a full load at the organization that I was coaching for. I was out networking. I was still trying to be a wife, right? And it was just like I don't see how I could grow my business anymore energetically with like everything that's already like, so I wasn't quite where I wanted to be at income wise, but it was the right time to make the switch because I could see how my business would continue to grow, but I just needed to buy like that time that I was putting into my job back.
Yeah.
And we had made those decisions financially that put us in a space where like I could have that dip in income until I built my business up to that point.
Yeah. And I won't ask you specifics because it's kind of rude, but I'm assuming you're making more than what you were doing back then.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
It's kind of rude to ask that. Sorry.
No, I mean, like I know a lot of coaches talk about about money and I am not like opposed to it, but like, yeah, I have a better income, a better way of life, a better quality of life, in having my own business. But it has like we said, it has its own challenges, right? Like I don't have paid time off. Like if I'm not coaching my people, I'm not making money. So like that it's what's right for you. I think like some people, being an employee is right. Like what is your risk tolerance? How many people are dependent upon you, right? Like, do you need health insurance? Buying your own health insurance is very expensive, right? Like there's so many different factors that like there one is not right or wrong or better. It's just what's the right space for you in the season of life with the responsibilities and the lifestyle that you want to have.
Yes. Yes. So many parents put things off because the kids are too little. And guess what? That's okay. Sometimes they are too little. And sometimes that is a season of your life that you're in. But
Just make the decision intentionally, right? Like don't say like I can't do it because I have small kids, right? Like that's like using the kids maybe as an excuse, but it's like, you know what? Like I want to be present for them. They're only going to be this young for so long and I want to enjoy my baby. That's way different than like I can't because,
right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that better. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Just whatever decision you make it from an intentional place, like because you like your reason.
yes. Yes. And you guys, this is so, again, is important to align yourself with your mindset because if you're talking to yourself badly and you say, oh, because I'm just a mom, because of, you just down talk yourself. It's
And you
what is,
probably don't even hear it, right? Like that's what's why I love coaching is that like somebody else is hearing the things that you don't even hear and helping you make the connections to like why you're getting the results that you're getting or not getting.
yeah, yeah.
And it's different than like your friends. Your friends are just gonna like cheer you on or like get in the pool with you and like, oh my God, I can't believe he was such a jerk.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Sometimes your yes friends you don't need. Sometimes your yes
Yeah.
friends are really bad for you.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah, a coach is going to call you on your stuff, right? Like, and in service of who you want to become, the goals that you want to achieve.
yeah, I think coaches are stupidly important. I think that if you want to level it, like what do you do if you want to become a better real estate agent? Like you're going to go to training, so you're going to go get coached by somebody. Um, it's
Yeah.
pretty much anything in life, I think, and the fact that people don't take mindset coaching more serious to me is shocking because
Yeah.
I
Everything is created in your mind.
yes yeah
Everything. Yeah.
okay yeah now I've kept you way longer okay.
I love talking to you. So
Love talking to
thank you
you.
for having me. And I really enjoyed getting to talk to you and talk to all of you.
You guys. And yeah, so Dee, shout out your Instagram just for anybody who's just listening.
Yeah, it's at Frayne. So DeeFrayne. So Frayne.
Perfect. And so who I mean, I kind of asked this at the beginning, but like who exactly are you coaching? If I'm like a stay-at-home mom that doesn't know what I want in life, could I
Yeah,
contact you
let's
potentially?
do it. Yeah, just shoot me a DM. We'll chat. If I'm not the right, look, if like you felt vibe here watching this and it's the right flavor and energy, let's do it. Like we'll chat. We'll figure it out. And if I'm not the right coach for you, I know a plethora of other coaches and I can refer you to someone. So if it's not really in my wheelhouse, if I don't think I can help you, I'm happy to introduce you to people I know and trust that are badass coaches that coach on a million and one different things. That's the cool thing about coaching is that like there's so many different types of coaches. So if I'm not the right person, but something I said rung true to you, I'll find somebody else who has a similar style coaching that can help you with what you need.
Love it. Yeah. And
Yeah.
you guys, please get a hold of her. Don't sit on that opportunity. For any of our coaches, don't sit on that opportunity. Your mindset is huge. I say this at the end of every video. Make sure that you find your tribe because that's where you're going to grow into the best version of you.
Yes. Love it.